All right, so another day, another set of questions that many Sync Academy members have posted recently. This is one of the features we have on our platform where every so often, about once a month, once every couple months, I just post open office hours so that you can post any question you have about sync licensing, maybe your particular situation. I already saw some of you are posting about your particular situation. And I come on camera and try to reply and respond and give you the best possible insights and advice that I possibly can. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. Siva, you had the first one here. I had a bunch of tracks previously released on streaming platforms and a few stock and sync libraries, but only recently signed up with a PRO. Okay. Would you recommend updating the info for each of those tracks released and uploaded to the stock and sync libraries, indicating that I'm now with BMI, or should I just do this for future works? I'm a little concerned that a sync library accepted your music without you being a member of a PRO. That's a little concerning. So I'm not sure which company accepted your music, but you do not earn any royalties without a PRO membership. You're going to have to partner with one. So I would definitely go have a conversation with your sync library for sure. The stock one, you probably need to go talk to them as well in terms of if you need to update your registrations and change some of the information, because stock generally doesn't get a lot of TV placements, but it can happen. So you want to make sure you're not missing out on any potential royalties. So definitely go talk to customer service or whoever you talk to at the stock site, and definitely the sync library as well, to say, hey, I am signed up now with BMI. We need to make sure my tracks are registered, because your tracks did hopefully get registered already through that library. And the question is, if you're not with a PRO, who's showing up as the writer, right? Definitely something you need to take care of now. No, I wouldn't just do this for future works. I would make sure that you clean this up now for the tracks that you've already been submitting and pitched to them, and tell them, I am now a member with BMI. Here's my information once you get your IPI number and all that good stuff, and ask them what was done about the previous tracks, because I didn't have a BMI account. I should have had that ready, but now I do. How did those tracks get registered? Did they get registered? We need to make sure that all those previous tracks now do for sure show me as the writer with my BMI account. So definitely talk to them, get on a phone call, email them, whatever you need to do. Make sure you clean that up, because that's your money on the line. Those are your royalties. Definitely got to do that. So I'm glad you're taking care of it now, earlier on, and it won't be an issue for you later, hopefully, right? All right, Ignacio. I'm a trailer composer, but I've only been working with my first publisher for 2 years, and I love it. I had one big placement with them, but I think I need to also write for TV Sync to have more consistent income. Probably. The problem is that I have 2 teacher jobs, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., a baby, and just a few hours at night to write and improve, and I'm tired. I hear you, Ignacio. Many of us have been in that position or in that position right now with a lot of obligations, so you're not alone there. I don't know what to do. Keep writing slowly but steady to submit to TV labels in the future. I don't want to spoil the good relationship with my publisher if I write less for them. They are awesome. Any advice? That's tricky, because you've got at least one publisher that seems to be, they've delivered for you and you like working with them and they seem to be treating you very well. So you definitely don't want to kind of throw away something that's working. But at the same time, you probably are seeing also that, these opportunities only come so often, and, you're not going to get every single one, of course. Most custom gigs and most custom briefs that we get in the sync licensing business just don't land, because just the statistical odds of every single one that we get, landing for us are just not going to be there. So we can't rely necessarily on custom briefs, at least when you follow in the footsteps that I have, which is that I primarily partner with production music libraries that allowed me to consistently and continually supply them with new music on a monthly basis, right? So I think you got your head in the right place in terms of you need to be thinking more about building up a catalog if you want this to be your full-time consistent income. For those that are just okay with an occasionally landing a big sync fee, throughout the year, or maybe every couple of years you land some big sync fee and it's not necessarily something you're hoping to make your full-time focus, then you can keep doing what you're doing. But I do believe that those passive income royalties through BMI or ASCAP, whoever your PRO is the path to be able to make a consistent income at this. And I do think you want to start thinking a little bit more about steering your efforts towards TV placements, which means you need to work with a library that can consistently say yes to new albums from you, or at least putting new tracks of yours on each new album or many new albums that they release throughout the year. Only having a couple hours at night, that's all you need to get started. Okay, so it would be great, obviously, if you could devote 40 hours, 80 hours a week to do this, but obviously I can tell you can't. Full-time job, 2 jobs, baby, all the other things going on. But this is what I say to all struggling producers that are kind of in the beginning stages and trying to sort of get the ball rolling here, is consistent effort, even if it's just an hour a day, is better than getting super excited about sync for a couple of weeks and putting all your effort into it and then burning out. So if you've only got an hour a day, you only got 2 hours a day, that could be enough to basically get the ball rolling, especially if you have a really great system for using templates, for going to your tried and true proven sounds and instruments and plugins, and using probably very similar, if not identical, mastering chain plugins, right? Kind of getting into a system where you know exactly what works because you've been doing this over and over and over again, so that you can really just focus on the music and the creativity, and struggling to try to find the next, bass sound or string sample is not going to be something that gets in your way. So you can finish tracks faster, you can mix and master tracks faster. It does get easier the more and more you do this, but I would definitely say consistency is going to be your best strategy right now, even if it's just 1 hour a day. If you wake up before work, or if you feel like you've got some energy after work, wherever you can schedule that in, maybe weekends you can schedule in a little bit more. Try to get a consistent schedule where you're just doing the same amount every single day, and you'll start to feel the sense of progress, momentum, and you'll hopefully start to feel that you're getting better at creating production music and getting faster at it, so you can kind of get the ball rolling. So it's not an easy answer. There's no quick fix for any of that kind of stuff, but I do think if you want this to be full-time, consistent income, you got your head in the right place, and I think you're thinking about this a little bit the right way. I would definitely double down on that. All right, Christian. Have the desired amount of tracks when pitching to a music library generally gone down in the last few years? It seems like they wanted a full album, 10 to 12 tracks, quite recently, but are now fine with, say, only 3 to 5. Is that a fair observation? Well, I don't necessarily know if I can speak for many different libraries, and I also wonder with this question, it's a really interesting one, how much of this is you thinking that my advice is reflecting on the entire industry? Because you're right, for many, many years here on this channel and in Sync Academy, I've been telling you guys, only come to these libraries with a full album, 10 tracks minimum, have a full finished product ready to go. If it's great music and it's on target and it's relevant for their clients and it's a full album ready to go, you're kind of giving them no reason to say no to you. You're taking away any excuse for them to go, well, I don't know, you only got 2 tracks, we'd have to work with you, I don't know. You're basically giving them no reason to say no. But what sort of changed that a little bit for me is we've been doing these in-person sync-up events the last couple of years where we've had many different library CEOs come in person and talk about their acceptance process. So as we were there in the room, asking them, what is the most attractive to you? A full album, just a couple of tracks, a demo? And some of them did say that a full album is still very, very attractive, and I think that's great. But many of them, to my surprise even, said, you know what, just show me your best. I just need to hear 2 tracks, 3 tracks that are just amazing. Like, show off your best talent for me to get me excited about working with you so that we can then go forward and continue on helping you build up an album, or maybe including your tracks in our next release or whatever it is. So my advice has kind of been adjusted and changed slightly to say, for some libraries, and for the ones I recommend for you guys in Sync Edge, I will let you know if I think this is worth a full album. Just don't approach this particular company unless you have a full album. But for some companies, especially these days as quality is becoming more and more in the focus, not necessarily just quantity, some libraries really do want to just hear 2 or 3 amazing tracks that you can bring to the table. And if you catch them and you hook them and you really impress them with just a couple of tracks, they'll reach out and then they can continue on. It's not a bad idea to have another 5 or 7 tracks after those 2 or 3 really strong ones to say, oh, you like those? Well, I've got 7 more, and you got a full album you can release tomorrow. That kind of makes you undeniable as well, even more undeniable. So I still don't think it's a bad idea to have a full album, but I think some libraries and many libraries will accept you and get excited about you with just a couple of tracks. So it kind of goes both directions there. All right, Vaughn. I'm having trouble deciding on a genre to concentrate on for sync. I'm a professional classical violinist, and I would like to use my strong point of recording live strings. Most of the libraries I have looked to have very little by the way of live record or instrumental recordings. I guess my question is, are tracks created with samples actually more syncable than live strings? What direction would you suggest? I'm happy to add sample-based percussion, piano, etc., and synths, and do tension cues if there are opportunities. It's a great question, Vaughn. So there are a couple different directions I can go with the answer here. So first off, if you are a professional classical violinist, I'm imagining you're really good at it, okay? If you're really good at it, and you can record it well and have a nice clean recording and really bring your own creative flair to the recordings, double, triple, quadruple down on that, because almost nobody is doing that in this business, right? Recording live violin on their music, right? It's almost unheard of. But correct, like solo violin, probably not a lot of use for that, and that's probably why you're not seeing a lot of that in production music libraries. However, yes, tension music for sure. If you can basically create a structural track, using a lot of virtual instruments and VSTs and sample libraries, kind of creating the sort of foundation, but your live violin recording becomes the lead and the focus, or sort of the focal point of a lot of your tension tracks, you're essentially undeniable, because you're going to be creating a very licensable style of music, but then you add your own unique creative twist that nobody else is going to be able to add, okay? Now, I'm saying that assuming that your violin performance and recording is amazing. The only exception to all this is if somebody is recording some live instrument and the performance is a little pitchy, a little tinny sounding. There's just some artifacts or some strange things with the recording or with the performance, timing issues, right? Recording live stuff adds a little bit more variables to the process. So just because you can record a live instrument doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be higher quality than using maybe a sample library where you can adjust. It'll always be in tune. You never have to worry about that. You can adjust the timing if things are off, or you can change the melody, even 3/4 into your recording process because you think there's a stronger melody you could have done. A lot more versatility with strings these days. But if you've got really, really solid, amazing skills with your violin, definitely do that. Just try to use it in a licensable style. So it sounds like maybe some tension, maybe even some minimal music could be there. Of course, I would say, I was going to say trailer, but these days, trailer music, there might be some use cases where you could have some kind of solo violin that really adds something to it. But I would say exactly where you're kind of thinking there in terms of the tension place, because there's tension music gets used all over the place, with drama, scripted shows, with unscripted reality shows. It's a very versatile style of music, and you bringing that to the table would definitely do well. Also, you might want to think about partnering with and collabing with other producers. So if somebody makes amazing rock cues and you can kind of throw some really cool violin leads on top of it, there might be a way where you can do that to create a really cool, unique twist on high energy rock music, or maybe classical, orchestral rock hybrid music, right? So there could be some interesting opportunities for you as a violinist to really shine on other people's tracks as well. So you got many options. I think it's just a matter of where you feel like you would be able to provide the most value, but that tension is definitely not a bad idea. I would certainly double down on that. And last one for this video, and we'll maybe pick up with a part 2. Alan, my main focus has been as a songwriter as opposed to production music. The genre that I write in tends to be singer-songwriter and folk. Most of the libraries I've looked at have limited opportunities. Any suggestions? Yeah, singer-songwriter, folk, there are certain styles of that can be licensable, but if it's kind of slow, melancholy, sad, ballad, that kind of a thing, or like folk music sometimes can be kind of in the 60s era of, maybe protest music or something like that. Some limited for that, but not a lot. So what I would suggest, Alan, is that you take your, I'm assuming you play a guitar and you sing, is bring your skills into some genre that you feel actually could be licensable. So obviously there are going to be some opportunities for trailer music, but it's probably going to be in the more dramatic. Think of Johnny Cash's cover of Nine Inch Nails' Hurt. You go check out that one. Pretty dark, pretty heavy, pretty intense, but obviously acoustic guitar, kind of folks, vocals, that kind of a thing. And imagine that song with huge epic drums underneath it. So you can take what you got and apply it to something. The other option, or the other idea I would suggest for you, is if you want to do more, something that would be better for a lot of these reality shows, maybe based in the South, kind of country living sort of reality shows, is just keep it more mid-tempo and up-tempo with drums, like have a full-on track, right? Not just acoustic guitar and singing, but just create a little bit more of kind of like a bluegrass or upbeat Americana sort of a style. And you could definitely see some placements in the kind of reality TV place as well. So I think what it comes down to, though, there's many different places you can go. Definitely, as you've been doing your research, which is really good, Alan, I think that's the smart approach before you just start making music, is look at when you type in, folk or Americana or country or bluegrass or anything like that, go to these catalogs and listen to the types of folk, bluegrass, country that they are distributing, right? What do you notice about them? How fast are they? How energetic are they? Are they massively produced? Are they minimally produced? How long are the tracks? If there are vocals, what are the vocalists singing about? Are there even lyrics, or is it more backgrounds, oohs and ahs, shouts, that kind of a thing? So definitely just start to notice the patterns as you're doing your research and find out, all right, of all the music that's kind of in my world, or at least related to the style of music that I make, and this is advice for all of you guys, no matter what style of music you produce, how can I steer my music and my skills and talents to kind of fit in a little bit better with the kind of music that they're already distributing? Because that's the music that they've already given thumbs up to. That's the music they already feel that they can get placements with. So I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to just make a bunch of music that'll sit on the shelf. I really want to make sure music flies off the shelf and gets as many placements as possible. So it's an element of sticking with what's great for you, sticking with your skills and your talents, but also making sure that you are creating accessible, licensable, marketable, and ultimately useful music for TV and film clients. It's a delicate balance, but it's a necessary one. So thank you guys so much. If you had any other questions about these topics or something I didn't quite get into, go ahead and post it below. But otherwise, I'll come back for probably a part 2, keep these videos a little bit shorter. And I appreciate all of you guys in Sync Academy for these great questions, and for all of you guys here on YouTube for all of your great questions throughout the years.